Geeks worldwide, welcome to another episode of the Capes Crew podcast, episode 174. I'm your host, Darth Sparrow, and I'm glad to be here with all you folks on this Monday evening, June 26th. And I'm not flying solo, which I'm excited about because it was rough last week, man. But I got my main man, the one and only Darren. The podcasting on my own. Not my forte. I gotta have somebody to talk to, man.
Yeah, I feel you. I was kind of the same way with the last episode of our podcast. I called it the Super Solo, just because
Yes.
I wanted to psych myself up for it.
Yeah, you're just like, doing the whole Rocky thing in the mirror. You're like, yeah, I can do this.
Exactly. I could talk nonstop for an hour. That's doable.
Yeah. I will say I ended up talking longer than I thought I was, which was good because I was like, I don't want to cut this thing too short, man. But it worked out okay, man. How have you been? How was your weekend? What have you been up to that's exciting and crazy, man?
Oh, it's good. My weekend's been good. I got got family stuff coming up this weekend. I'm going to be at Magic City Con here in Birmingham this Friday.
So tell me a little bit about Magic City Con, man. I'm gonna interject right there. What's the Magic City Cons all about?
Well, honestly, this will be my first time, so it's going to be it's my first time, but this is not my first con, but my first Magic City Con. I'm going to be covering it. Just doing a lot of regional cons. Like there was a Huntsville Con a few months ago I went to, but just kind of dipping my toe in the con scene, seeing how it goes.
Yeah. Is Magic City Con like an all across the board geek we'll say geek culture con, or is it anything specifically? Like I know Brad and them go to one that's like really just geared towards comics, but is this like an all across the board kind of thing?
It's kind of all across the board. Like it's gonna be I'm sure it's probably again, just a lot of this is anecdotal, but it's probably gonna be a lot of like cosplay and anime and things like that. And just even looking at their site, they've got a lot of they're diversified in what they're covering, a lot of hard science and things like that, like comics and so it's shaping up to be good. I'm looking forward to it.
Is there any guests in particular that you're looking forward to hopefully talking to or interviewing for the site?
Well, I'm interviewing for Superpowered Fancast. I'm actually going to be interviewing Ming Chen from Comic Book Men this Friday.
Nice, man. So good
one. That's going to be good. Like he's real receptive. I emailed him. He contacted me back. He said, "Let's do it. Bring a recorder. Let's sit down and talk." It's I'm like I said, looking forward to it. I want to thank Danny B for that. That hookup,
the man with the plan over there.
Exactly.
So Darren, when you're going to go to a con and you're going to talk to, we'll say, a well-known media personality like the gentleman from Comic Book Men, what's your process? I know typically mine is I hit up all the IMDb's and the Googles and I try to get as much information as I can. I typically when I interview somebody for the site or whatever, I try to maybe go a little outside of the box with my questioning. I don't want to ask the questions they could ask a gazillion times. It's like I can find all that stuff on Google if you just do a couple of clicks. But what's typically your process when you're working on an interview with somebody?
Well, it's kind of like what you're talking about. Like I looked at IMDb stuff. I looked through the Google stuff. It helps that I'm a fan of Comic Book Men. Like I've watched every episode, so it's not like I'm going in cold. Like, hey, you're here and you're great. Whatever you do,
you're a famous guy, and people know you.
Exactly. People know who you are. So it tends to be easier. But yeah, I do read. I do read like what others have talked about, like what they've interviewed on, what topics they tend to hit, and I may do a little bit of that just to kind of ease in, but I really like having more of a conversational interview. Like it's not some
absolutely.
Like, hey, question answer. I kind of like to have a conversation, and then the answers will come from that. If I can make the person feel comfortable enough to just kind of sit and talk, I think I kind of approach it more from a fan perspective,
sure,
than from hey, you know what, you got to hit these points for me.
Yeah, that's that's one thing I really enjoy about, we'll say, going to maybe like a smaller or not quite as big con. When you
Hmm.
talk to the personalities there, you get to do that a little bit more, you know, as in, you know, like let's say if you're at like San Diego Comic Con and you're like in a roundtable press interview,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
like what you're there to do. You got to hit those points, and you're talking about their shows and things. And it's definitely more of a formal setting. And like you, man, I love those like smaller interviews where, you'll get
mhm,
some like fun, like really candid moments with the people you're talking to, because they're not so stressed for time. They don't have like a billion
yeah,
other interviews going on. So it's always kind of a nice when you get to sit back and do that.
yeah. And I think again because this is kind of my first kind of foray really into the cons as media. Like I've always gone before as a fan, so
Yeah,
I think I kind of want to get his
sure.
perspective
Right.
on the con experience. You just
Yeah.
kind of mirror it to mine, and I think that'll probably be the conversation that we end up having.
Yeah. So that brings me to a good question for you, Darren. That I don't think we've really talked about this much on this pod, but
Mhm.
there's been a big, we'll say, a big shuffle, a big fiasco in the con scene lately, having to do with prop weapons and things. And obviously,
Yeah,
for those of you that haven't heard, or I don't know how you wouldn't have heard, but there was an issue a few weeks back at Phoenix Comic Con
yeah.
where a
Jason
gentleman
David
was
Frank.
yeah, a gentleman went to a con with fully loaded weapons and throwing stars and God knows what else. And apparently he was planning to kill Jason David Frank, who's the Green Ranger. And the aftermath of that incident is there's a lot of conventions now going very, very, hard U-turn on their prop policy. Before it was like, it's pretty good as long as they could check things, and as
Mhm.
long as it wasn't like a firing prop weapon or a bladed
Yeah,
weapon. And to now it seems to be going that all these conventions, more and more of them are following suit, that they're going like extreme, like we don't want any kind of weapons in now. What's your being that that's what's happening now? What's your overall thought about that? Do you think that a lot of these cons are acting, I guess, reacting too much to that whole situation instead of
mhm.
maybe coming up with a more solidified weapons policy at cons? Or do you think they're right in what they're doing from a safety standpoint?
I think it is. I think it is a little bit of both. I think one of the advantages of not having like a centralized kind of con organization is that
Yeah,
everyone has their concerns and they want to address it their way, but they also want to continue to service the fans. So I think you are going to run into like people, and again, this this is kind of unprecedented. So you're going to run into situations where people are trying to figure it out on the fly. And I think this year you'll probably
yeah,
see it'll probably be geared more towards safety.
hmm,
And I think probably next year, as they see what works, then they'll either relax the policies or they'll come up with better ones. So that's, I would say, probably my advice to the community would be kind of be
hmm,
patient this year. This is something that, I mean, it's always one of those things where somebody who's not who's not part of the scene ruins it
right,
for everyone else. So
yeah,
I'd say probably be patient with them. They're not doing it out of spite. They're not doing it out of they're not doing it to hurt either the fans or the experience. I think they're trying to do it to make sure everyone's safe. But at the same time,
yeah,
be to them, to the organizers, be reasonable.
yeah.
There's certain things that, I mean, just, I mean, what you were saying, like if it's something's an obvious fake gun,
I mean, I think when you start going off the look of, hey, we're gonna now ban lightsabers and
yeah,
sonic screwdrivers.
yeah, that's too extreme.
Yeah,
That's going, I mean, that's going a little too far. But like I said, there's always going to be, I'd say again, this year it's going to be more a safety issue, and then they'll see
right.
what works and what doesn't, and hopefully they'll organize and kind of come up with like a something that will work for both the safety concerns and the fans, and hopefully they'll talk to the fans to get their feedback.
Yeah,
Just the
absolutely.
worst thing they could do is just go into a back room and come up with a plan and just say this is how it is from now on. So
Yeah, I agree, and it's kind of it's one of those hard situations, Darren, because a lot of people, cosplayers, they go to these cons, and that's, they spend all year putting costumes together,
mhm.
they spend all year working on props, and that's, I mean, you can say sometimes it's like 75-80% of the reason why they're going to a con is to show off a costume, to
Yeah.
enter a costume contest. And so that's definitely, I think, from that perspective, it's hard to maybe see it in the other light, like you're saying, to be patient, because right now it is a lot of reactive things happening. It's a
Mhm.
quick knee jerk reaction to a big scary situation that
Yeah,
could have ended a lot worse than it did. And
exactly.
so and so I see both ends. Safety wise, when I go to convention, I want to be safe. I want to know that I don't have to worry about getting shot or stabbed, or a bomb going
Mhm.
off or something crazy. And so in that respect, I get it. I understand where they're coming from. I get they want to, in our society, with, it seems like, just, I mean, every month or every couple weeks there's a terrorist attack, there's some kind
Yeah.
of thing. So it's hard to, it's hard not to just really take a look at them and say there's a reason why they're trying to do this, there's a reason why they're acting this way. But also, like you said, I really hope that, later on, once the, I guess we'll say, once the ashes settle a little bit, we'll get to
Mhm.
see, maybe they'll really rethink their policies, and obvious fake fictional weapons are not going to be an issue in the future.
Yeah. And I think and you're right. And I think part of it is also going to be, I mean, from the perspective of the cosplayers and the fans, you're right.
Yeah.
People have worked on these costumes all year,
Mhm.
and this is the
Mhm.
usually the like cons are the one place where you get to have that freedom of
Yeah,
expression, where you get to you
absolutely.
can't, you can't, I mean, you can walk down the street dressed as a Jedi. You can, go into Starbucks or go into work dressed like Laura Croft. I don't know how long you'd last, but you have that
Yeah.
option as a, as a free person.
Right.
But this is, but cons are the
Yep.
moment when there's no judgment for that.
Sure.
And I think that's something that organizers should take into account. They should definitely think about that when they're coming up with their policies for next year. So,
Yeah, absolutely. And it'll be interesting to see. I haven't looked at it recently. I don't know what the almighty San Diego Comic Con's weapons policy is going to be this year, but there was rumor that they were going to follow suit with everybody else, and I
yeah, I
don't know if
think with
they've announced that yet or not. So if anybody knows, you can tweet us and, send us a link or whatever. But I'm sure it's going to be something very similar to what the other cons have been doing.
yeah, I think San Diego, they might. I mean, I think they'll probably get it closer to the draconian line than anyone else because they've got, a lot of
Numbers, a lot of people.
numbers, a lot of industry people.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I think they may go a little bit harsher this year
yeah.
and then pull back once they get feedback. So
Yes. Luckily, I'm going one day, and I don't know if they're gonna freak out about my Iron Man gauntlet and repulsor. So I might be okay. I might be okay. We'll have to see, Darren.
be lucky. See,
But
that's the dream. That's the dream for me
yeah,
is San Diego. That's,
yes,
one of these years. I'm gonna be
yeah.
there. It's San Diego. Me and my entire
We
crew. Mhm.
There will be mass amounts of geek rejoicing with the Capes crew over here.
Exactly.
Be a good time. So I'm looking forward to it, man. We'll see what happens this year.
Yeah.
One more question on that subject.
Mhm.
Your ultimate person, celebrity, comic book writer, industry person, if you could interview, who would it be? Who's
Oh,
like the
so
pinnacle of your list, bro?
if there was a pinnacle, I mean, there's always been kind of three people really I'd love to just sit down and talk to. Like I mean,
Yeah,
if someone happened to be recording, that would be, that'd be
yeah,
ideal.
sure.
But definitely probably the top of my list would be Stan
Mm-hmm.
Lee.
Yep.
I mean,
Yes,
it's
absolutely.
and probably not even just to talk about comics, I think it would be more to just talk about writing. Like where does like that would probably be what I'd talk to him about. Second person, Stephen King. Like I'm a writer's guy. I love writing. I love talking to writers. So that would be it. And then probably I'd say my if I had to go into the actor category or like actor or actress or something like that, I'd probably it really is hard for me to just kind of narrow that down, but it would probably be, and I know he's not necessarily the the pinnacle. He's not the most loquacious of people.
All right.
But Harrison Ford.
Hey, man. Hey, that would be like extra if you could get.
And I think honestly, it'd probably be a conversation that had nothing to do with Han Solo or Indiana Jones. I I would.
Yeah, because if you asked him those questions, he'd probably be like, "I hear this crap all the time."
Exactly. I'd start off talking about planes, which I've never flown, and just let him educate me for a few minutes.
You're all, what's it like landing a plane on a golf course?
Exactly.
Yes. I would definitely put Stan Lee in my top 3 with Robert Downey Jr. and Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah,
would be my top 3. But we'll see, man. We're always pushing towards that goal.
Yeah, it's it can either happen or it doesn't.
Right? You never know.
No, exactly.
Yes. But you know what I am going to be doing this week, Darren?
What's up?
Casey's not here to razz me about it too much. I took Wednesday off. I'm going to be making another whirlwind crazy trip down to LA to camp out for the red carpet for Spiderman Homecoming. Will this be the year Will finally gets Robert's autograph? Will it be? Send me good juju, everybody. I need it.
I mean, I'm sending positive vibes your way, and it can happen. It can absolutely happen. I think if enough people find out about it, they'll push you to the front of the just push you to the front with something in your hand.
What they've been doing the last couple premieres that I've missed out, they've been doing what they call a fan pit, and they like select people out of the crowd, usually people in costume or whoever, and they stick them in this fan pit, and you get in there, you're pretty much guaranteed you're going to meet celebs there.
Yeah,
they're going to come over and sign some things and take some selfies and go on their way as they're doing their interviews. So if I'm going full Stark dress, man.
I was gonna say, man, Stark it up. Like,
yes, I'm going full on. The gauntlets are ready to go. The glasses, my suits, all. You guys, the Spider-Man the first trailer that they did where he's in the back of the car with Peter. He's got if you look closely, he's got a kitty cat on his shirt.
Yeah,
I had somebody make me a custom-made kitty cat shirt. So I'm going with it, man. I'm going all the way.
Man, go full Stark. Like that's get somebody's attention.
Yeah, man. So I'll be tweeting on Wednesday, and if I can do some live video out there and show everybody, on the Twitters on our site, I'll post that up there for you guys so you can check it out and you can see my craziness with all the other fans out there. So
awesome.
Wish me luck, guys. It's gonna be crazy.
Good luck to you.
Thank you, my friend. So Darren, let's talk a little bit of movie news. Speaking of Spider-Man Homecoming, because there seems to be it's been a lot of tidbits about Spider-Man Homecoming specifically floating around the last couple of days.
Oh yeah, it was slightly bigger than a tid and or a bit today with the news about Spider-Man.
Yeah, man.
Spider-Man Homecoming. That was full on plot point. That was that I hope gets explored.
So we're gonna take it back all the way. Man, I should have looked up the year. I should know this. It's an Iron Man movie. Iron Man 2 came out. Okay?
2010, sir. 2010.
2010. God, I should know that. 2010. Iron Man 2 came out. You can debate whether you loved or hate Iron Man 2. You don't need to ask my opinion about it.
I like
specifically. You know what? Hey, that was the first appearance of the MCU Black Widow. So can't complain about Black Widow with the long red hair. I loved it, man. I dug it with the long curly red hair. She looked good. But anyways, that's not the point we're getting to. The point is, if you can remember back, listeners, you can remember back to the scene, the big final battle that took place at the Stark Expo, and if you remember correctly, Stark Expo took place in where, Darren? Where did Stark Expo take place?
That would be Queens.
Queens, New York. That's right. And who else do we know that hangs his mask in Queens, New York?
I mean, just a plucky little kid from Queens named Peter Parker.
Absolutely, that's the one. So if you remember, there was a brave kid who was wearing an Iron Man mask, helmet, and you know, when all the hammer drones were coming and attacking everybody, there was a scene where that little guy got out there and, you know, put on his best Iron Man and, you know, put his hand up like this fake little, you know, arc, you know, pulse reactor on the hand, and right before he was going to get blown away, that was when, you know,
yeah, you got full on targeted that kid.
Oh man, yeah, he was about to get blown to bits, and then luckily Iron Man came and stepped in and, you know, blew away the hammer drone and said, "Nice work, kid." So we found out today through Tom Holland, and this was confirmed, he says, by Kevin Feige, that was none other than a young Peter Parker.
Yep.
So that means that, at least in the MCU, that as we know now, Spider-Man's already been kicking around for a while. This is not a new thing. Yeah.
No.
What do you think? What does that add to coming and the whole story as a whole, Darren, to you?
Well, I wrote about this for the site. Like, it's actually up. It's actually been up since earlier today, but it all makes sense. I mean, you got the timing, especially with, you know, Peter being a teenager and Homecoming. This is what, like 6-7 years later from the time of Iron Man 2. So I mean, timing absolutely makes sense. I mean, you got the location, and that was what I was talking about. Like, you have like Iron Man 1, and for a good deal of Iron Man 2, it all took place in like California. So I mean, just the fact that the Stark Expo is all of a sudden in Queens, like that's a huge kind of plot point. Now, like I said before, I refuse to believe that they had stacked this far ahead.
They put that much thought into it. They're like, that's Spider-Man.
No, I don't think they went that deep, but I think that it is probably the most convenient.
Yeah.
The most convenient thing they could have done to kind of connect them, because you never see that kid's face.
No.
Never see it, never takes it off. And I mean, and then just the fact that, you know, my theory is like, what if like Stark recognized that this kid was brave, just kind of, you know, maybe he kept an eye on him.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe found out he went to when something happened to him. Sure. Maybe he started seeing maybe one of his AIs, you know, like Jarvis sent him an alert saying, hey, that kid, blah, 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 blah. And I mean, I think there's a reason. And again, even in Civil War, there's almost like a reason to kind of establish the fact that Stark knew who Peter was before everyone else did.
There was, you know, he was showing him the videos he had seen on YouTube or whatever. And, you know, you start to think, was that a new thing that he was keeping tabs on? Or like you said, had he been keeping tabs on him for a while?
Watching this kid for a while. So I don't know how long. So how long has he really been watching him?
Right.
So, I mean, it's so conveniently well placed to be that random that it works, even though you know it wasn't something they planned. They didn't plan that out in 2010. But
it's like, one day we're gonna get Spider-Man back, and you know, let's just throw him in here right now just in case. No.
Exactly. Let's throw this kid in here in Queens, and then, you know, because frankly, if that had been the case, then they'd have gone at least maybe a little bit obvious and had him wearing like, you know, like not a Spider-Man shirt,
right?
But maybe like a shirt with like a spider on it or something.
Yeah,
that
like
would
webs or something on it.
Exactly, exactly. Something like that. That was obvious, but not, you know, not over the top.
I love it, man. I like you said, it was just a nice little well-wrapped web sack of coolness that they just all of a sudden said like, hey, check this out.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's something they can use as a plot point in Homecoming. It's not heavy-handed and it's not something that's too esoteric to where it's like, you know, hey, Captain Marvel served you coffee once, like that. That's it's something like,
I remember that.
Exactly. It's something tangible. It's something that you can remember. And I guarantee you there's so many people right now that are rewatching Iron Man 2. Like after
Yes.
after hearing about
it's gonna get the most hits it's gotten in a while.
exactly. It's gonna start trending again.
Watch it. Yes, I want to go watch it right now after we're done, Darren. I got to
Mhm.
do it, man.
Yeah.
So that's pretty good, man. And also some other news that we got about Spider-Man is what we could possibly expect for the sequel, which timeline wise is going to be sometime after, I believe it's the second Avengers movie that we're waiting on, right? Yeah. But we were looking at a comicbook.com earlier, and they had an article about it, and they were talking about that the sequel to Spider-Man Homecoming is going to be dealing with the aftermath of all the events of Infinity War and the next Avengers movie.
Yeah.
A couple things they threw around was it's going to be very similar to maybe another Civil War movie. I'm sure there's going to be maybe different groups of Avengers after the next two Avengers movies. You're going to probably see a whole different roster of heroes than what we've grown accustomed to in the MCU, because they've said pretty much that these next two Avengers movies are going to be the culmination of everything that's led up to those two movies.
Yeah.
What do you think, or what would you like to see after the next two Avengers movies, Darren?
I think honestly, in my opinion, and can only be my opinion. Honestly, I would like them to kind of stay, maybe refocus on individual characters. Like what really made Phase 1 work for me was individual film. Let me get to know the characters. Boom, throw me an Avengers movie at the end of the phase. And I think once the roster has grown the way it has, it's going to be harder. But I think if you kind of break them up and maybe not have 2 or 3 characters in each movie, then you get back to the core of why you enjoy the character in the first place. Like, I'm not necessarily expecting another Thor movie or another Cap movie or another Iron Man movie. I think honestly they should wait maybe 2 or 3 years and do one. And I think that'd be fine. But I would love to see, if they're going to do Spider-Man, make it a Spider-Man movie.
Right.
Have it be, as it almost put it in the sense of, Spider-Man trying to deal with his newfound notoriety at the same time, still trying to be Peter Parker. And then have like, you can have another Ant-Man movie, or you can have like Ant-Man and the Wasp, and but don't like make the cameo subtle, but don't make it like, don't put too much. Like I was one of those people. I'm not a fan of that Homecoming poster with Tony.
With Tony all big.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not. Like, this is it's not Iron Man 4. It's
that poster was pretty rough, man. From an Uber Iron Man Tony fan, I'll tell you, I'll be the first to admit that was a rough poster.
Yeah.
I was like, wait a minute, what movie is this?
Exactly, because then it's it's Spider-Man and the Stark.
Yes. Spider and the Stark. That sounds like a cheesy 70s detective show. The Spider and the Stark. Tuesday nights on Fox.
You reckless Stark. You and Spider throw me, give me your back. You're on suspension.
What do you want from me, man? I roll.
Exactly. I get my information from the streets.
Exactly. Did you get a chance to see that that poster that Regal tweeted out today, the IMAX poster for Spider-Man Homecoming?
No, I didn't. I'm trying to think if I did or not. I've been going through so much news today. Yeah. Like what's on it that I might have missed? But
it's funny, man. The poster that they released today literally looks like every junior high, freshman, sophomores trapper keeper looked like in the late 80s, early 90s. It's like you took a piece of paper and collaged a bunch of things that you like on the front of it.
Oh, and that's cool.
It literally looks like that with like little handwritten scribbles around it. Like, I don't know if you recall that like Stussy S that everybody was drawing in the 90s.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh my
Yeah.
god,
With the
everyone.
point. Okay. That's even on there, Darren.
Oh,
I'm I'm like,
like
what the heck? This looks like my my junior high school, like early high school year binder. It's hilarious. And it's like it says like bad guy, Stark, like it's got like little like funny captions and like different magazine articles like printed on it. It's hilarious, man.
God, that
My
S will never go away.
I
Yeah,
know, man.
I'm looking at
My
it
friend,
now. Yeah.
yeah, it's funny, huh?
It's
My
almost
friend
like,
was
honestly, it
go
almost
ahead.
looks like color forms. Like
Yeah, yeah. my,
like
my
someone took
my friend was hating on it, and he's a little bit older than me, and I was like, no, you don't understand, man. That's how every like teenager in my era, that's how their binders looked.
mm-hmm.
It's
Oh
like
yeah.
if you're going
Anytime
for
you
that
got like a
homecoming
sticker
like
book.
high school thing, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's hilarious. It looks exactly like one of those. So I thought that was a pretty good, nice little twist, a nice little save after the Iron Man 4 poster.
Yeah, it's pretty cute. I like how he's just kind of in the background and there's no actual Iron Man, just Tony
Yes,
Stark's head.
looking like, and then you got Spider-Man all big with the peace sign.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, it's hilarious, man. It's good. They've I hope I'm going to see it in IMAX. I already bought my tickets, so I'm hoping that's something they're going to give out because I know a lot of times they either do like a free poster
Yeah. Yeah.
or like one of those commemorative tickets if you go see it on opening night. So hopefully
Mm-mm-mm.
I come away with one of those. If not, I'm going to go online and buy one.
Yeah.
It's nostalgic for me, and not only that, it's got Spider-Man and Iron Man in it, so it's cool.
I say one of these days I'm gonna go ahead and it'll probably be when it's like when they're like 20 some odd movies in. I'm gonna go ahead and just do one of the just buy the ticket
Yeah,
and you know change of clothes and a toothbrush and just
yeah,
me and a couple of friends just hang out for
yes,
and it would have to be when my wife and kids are out of town because there's no way
yes,
my
because
wife would
they're not going
allow
to let you do that.
no, not in the slightest.
Yeah. So far the longest one I did, Darren, was when Civil War came out
Yeah.
because
Oh,
they
you did.
showed yeah, because they showed the Cap movies, they showed Avengers
Mhm.
1 and 2, and then they showed Civil War. So I think it started at like 7:30 or 8 o'clock in the morning, and went
Yeah, I had
till
a
the
buddy of mine did that too. It's like then they gave them out medals, and I'm like, yeah,
yeah. I
because
got
it is
I
a
got
sport. It's
I
the
got two
sport.
of those, man. I
Just
got my
binge
wife's
watching.
one and I got mine, so they're chilling on my door over here.
Nice.
I'm like, this is the closest I'll ever get to a marathon medal. How do you
Yeah.
like it now? my friend who is always
I put
running
in some real,
marathons.
put in
Yeah,
some real work, guy, and I did it without bloody nipples.
yes. Do you know how much popcorn I had to eat?
Exactly.
I I literally ingested my weight in Coca-Cola.
Mm-hmm. And one caught in my teeth. It was awful. That's real pain.
Yes. Come on, anybody can run.
Exactly. I only run when
Yeah,
I'm chased.
yeah, exactly. Or they're gonna run out of limited edition cups, and I have to make a run to the snack bar.
Exactly.
Yeah, man, that's speaking of aftermaths of Avengers. We got some funny, interesting set photos today from the set of Avengers Infinity War, and
Mm-hmm.
there was some very Iron Man centric photos from the set. Notably, one of the things was one of the pictures showed what seems to be like Tony with an arc reactor again on his chest,
Yeah.
which I find interesting. Now the other photo was when they're doing a very like CGI heavy movie, they typically will make like uh we'll say like a reference prop so the actors can get
Mm-hmm.
an idea of where this CGI thing is going to be put in. And so there was a guy that looked really funny. It was like he was carrying a bust of Iron Man's suit from that movie, which looks really cool, by the way.
Yeah,
Somebody
definitely has
said,
a yeah.
"Go ahead, buddy. What are you going to say?"
No, I said it definitely has like kind of a like a space armor
Yeah,
kind of look to it. It's like the lines are a little sharper on
yeah,
especially on the helmet.
yeah. Did Somebody said it looks similar to the Iron Man armor model 16, which also has a triangular arc reactor piece, and apparently it's a suit that Tony designed following some health issues he had related to exposure to the power systems involved with other suits.
Mm.
This could be kind of an interesting place to take Tony after the events of the next two Avengers movies and
Yeah.
Spider-Man Homecoming. Does he get some kind of weird illness from all the years of using the suits where he feels like his best shot is to slap another arc reactor in there? Does he need a special arc reactor to power the next generation of suits?
Yeah.
Maybe it has something to do with a space suit if we ever see, because I'm sure we're probably going to see one of those in Infinity War. What came up from you scratching your head about that arc reactor?
Well, I mean, it is one of those things where if in Iron Man 3 there was no, he had the surgery, but I almost kind of go a little bit just simpler with it. I mean, not every surgery is 100%, even with the best surgeon in the world. Sure. And there's a possibility that, hey, you know what, he may have developed complications naturally.
Yeah,
and
here's my question, buddy. After having a hole in your chest that size, how do they fix that?
Exactly. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's rich people. He probably got it from like some rich cadaver or something.
Yeah.
Because that whole area, I don't know, that there should be a lot more scarring. But
we're talking like that.
Exactly. So I think it might be more along the lines of, hey, he turns to a technological solution the way he always does.
Yeah.
Because
Tony does, yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, and it could just be the fact that, and it could be exacerbated by the stress he's put on himself by all the superheroing.
Yes, does take its toll.
Exactly. You have surgery. They don't tell you to go put on a suit right away and and fight your buddies. Don't maybe not have a civil war after having something removed from your chest. So,
Mr. Stark, can we put the Civil War off at least for 6 to 8 weeks, please?
Exactly.
Tony wasn't having any of that. He's like, man, we don't have time. Yeah. I gotta do this now. Yeah.
I'm a good war, but I might make it civil.
Right. And what's funny is seeing this photo, Darren, and clearly it was around the same time that photo that was like breaking the internet last week popped up where they were all having lunch.
I love that photo so much. That was so great.
Great photo, man. It was like, hey, you want to send your fans in a frenzy? Just get all these, MCU heavy hitters at lunch together and just tweet it out.
They got their LaCroix waters and their salads in their giant bowls. Yes.
Yes. You had 2 Sherlocks, a Hulk, and a Wong. I mean, what more could you want? I don't know if you saw it. What's really funny, kind of slightly related, unrelated. There's been a whole fiasco a while back with the actors Drake and Josh, who used to be friends. They're from that.
Yeah,
show.
I've heard about that. Yeah.
Married and didn't invite Drake, and I think his tweet following that was something like, "When you don't get an invite to your friend's wedding, the message is clear." And yesterday, in response to the Avengers photo, I saw a tweet from Chris Evans, and it said, "When you don't get the invite to lunch, the message is clear." I was like, "Oh, poor Cap."
If it was just followed by like Civil War 2.
Yes, that's where it's going, man. It's all over the lunch. It was like comedic gold from Chris Evans. It was good, man.
Exactly. Just someone with the meme of him is like of him at the top is I was hungry. They said, well, I was hungry too.
Yeah.
Civil War.
Yes. Yeah. The stupid caption.
Exactly.
It's good, man. For some reason, he's listed on the scheduled to appear at the red carpet on Wednesday. I don't know why Chris Evans would be there.
Well, I mean,
they typically do get other, MCU actors there showing up, but
he wasn't.
He's on the bill.
Yeah, but if you've seen the trailer, he's in like the little PSA film.
Yeah,
that they show.
Right.
But I did hear a rumor that he is in the post-credit sequence. That he's in one of the post-credit scenes, and which would absolutely make sense for him to be. So
trying to get Spidey on his side, maybe.
yeah, I mean, it would probably be something just as innocuous as, hey kid, like he finds Peter and he's like, hey kid, remember me, something like that. Yeah. So
Yeah. He's
that's
like, oh
yeah.
yeah, you're the guy who took Shield.
Mhm. So
Yeah.
yes, I mean, I heard that rumor that he's going to be there, but
Yeah.
not having seen it, I don't know. But if he's
Right.
scheduled to be on the red carpet, then there's probably speculation that he has a bigger part to play than just as in a PSA.
Right. Intriguing, Darren.
Exactly. I'm
Yes.
saying I'm
All I know.
putting my Sherlock detective skills to work.
Ooh, fancy. All right, man. Before we round out the movie news, let's talk about the fiasco, the other fiasco that's been going on in the Star Wars camp, man. What is the deal with the Han Solo movie? Let's see. They fired their directors because they cited discrepancies, arguments, not able to settle on things between them and Kathleen Kennedy.
Yeah.
There's been news that they are also disappointed with the lead actor, so much so that they had to bring in an acting coach during filming. The good news, I guess, out of this is that now taking over directing duties is an Academy Award-winning director now, aka Mr. Ron Howard, Mr. Apollo 13, A Beautiful Mind. What is that gonna do for a Star Wars movie, man? Having that kind of star power behind the camera.
I don't know, because I think the thing is that I don't expect to see Ron Howard Star Wars. I'm not going to see it. And I think that's probably what most people are afraid of, is that it's going to be, Ron Howard is going to be the Da Vinci Solo. But
Da Vinci Solo.
Right. But they have a script. Like they have a script they've agreed on. I think honestly, I mean, I've heard the rumors about the performance. I'm willing to take those with a grain of salt, simply because Kennedy was involved in the casting process, so I'm relatively sure she wouldn't have cast him, unless she believed in that he could do it. As far as as Miller and Lord being fired, that's unprecedented. I'd say that's kind of
that's the big kicker.
Right, that's the big kicker. Like everything else is at this point is just kind of fallout. It's the question of where do we go from here? Because again, one of the biggest rumors is that they only had 2 more weeks of filming, of principal photography. So it's almost like 90% of this film's already done. Yeah. So that's gonna, they're gonna have to go to the Directors Guild to find out what they do with this. Right. In essence, it's almost like having 2 films. Even if they go back and do reshoots, who gets the credit? Is it Miller and Lord who shot 90% of the movie, or is it Ron Howard that comes in and finish it up?
Yeah.
So, or does everyone do all 3 share credit?
Yeah, it's oh man, being that much of it was done, I think it's a bad time to be firing your directors. I mean, granted, I don't know the ins and outs of making a movie, but I just don't understand how that makes any sense to fire your director being that close to being done with the film. Why can't we just come to some kind of resolution or some kind of agreement or an exchange? Maybe you can put this in, we'll put this in, something. They've done that with other movies before, but why run the risk of sinking your movie with 2 different visions? Like you said, it could be 2 different movies now that we're gonna have to try to mesh into one. What's that gonna leave for the final product, and how are the fans gonna receive that?
Well, I'll put it to you this way: you got Miller and Lord, who they wanted to bring levity, they wanted to be fun, and that's great.
Yeah.
But then you can't be Miller and Lord, even as great as your reputations are. You can't be Miller and Lord and going against Kasdan and Kennedy, who are the keepers of Star Wars. Exactly. They are the keepers of the legacy. So if anything, they're the ones you defer to when you kind of want to make these tonal changes. So if the fact that they weren't able to come to an agreement means, honestly, Kennedy and Kasdan are not the 2 that would have to compromise. Like
Absolutely.
just from just taking it from their perspective, there's no reason for them to compromise. Looking at it from Miller and Lords,
Right. Yeah.
I think you brought me in to do it this way. You should trust
Right.
in my vision.
Yeah.
At the same time, you got millions of dollars on the line, millions of potential dollars to be made. So
Yeah.
they're going to go with they're going to want to go with the thing that they agree to before they started production.
Yeah.
So it's just a question of how that gets executed at this point. Like if they bring in Ron Howard, and well, they are, but if they if he comes in and they find enough footage that they can keep, and he just shoots or does reshoots or different or shoots different scenes in a different tone to kind of match what they were going for, then I think it'll work out. But honestly, at this point, because of the time they have built in for reshoots, they have time to shoot another movie.
Well, yeah.
So
You're right.
and it's not like they don't have the money. I'm just saying it'd be a crunch, but they're going to make that money back. They're going to make that money back in merchandising, frankly.
Absolutely.
But
I mean, they've already made that money somehow.
Exactly. So
nothing's even happened yet, and they're already making
there'll be
money.
some creative accounting going on, but somehow that movie will get made.
Yeah, I tell you, man. But I think Ron Howard has the chops to pull it off nicely. I mean, you know, he's no stranger to the big space epic. So
exactly, he knows the space epics. He knows the world.
Yeah,
he knows fantasy. I have no doubt in his ability.
Yeah,
I think it is just like a question of what does he take, what does he leave, what does he bring in, and how do you put that all together into something that works?
Yeah, good point, Darren. Well, what will transpire? We'll have to wait and see, man. But hopefully it all gets resolved, because I'm looking forward to hopefully having another good Star Wars spin-off movie after the success of Rogue One. So
yeah, and and the one thing you're never going to hear anyone say is, you know what I don't want to see? That new Star Wars.
Yeah, it's pretty rare, man. It's pretty rare.
Yeah, exactly.
I usually try to non-violently get those people out of my house.
Right.
Come on, can you leave now before I get violent? Thanks.
Like, well, thanks for coming. I appreciate you coming in today.
Yeah, that's all we have time for today. Goodbye.
I thought we were going to have coffee. There's no coffee. Don't drink coffee. So.
Nope. Sorry. We don't do coffee in this house. We only do coffee for people that like Star Wars.
Exactly.
All right, buddy. That's a good spot to wrap the movie talk. Let's finish up with our weekend geek, man. What have you been reading lately?
I have been nibbling around the edges of Secret Empire. Like I'm still I'm reading it sporadically. Like I'm still not a fan of the concept, but I've been kind of digging around the edges and reading things like that. Like I read the Underground. I read what I just finished reading. I just finished reading Thor number 20.
And is this one of those big things where like all the different titles have like little tidbits that add to the overall story?
Well, yeah, those do. The Secret Empire ones do. Like Thor 20 is not necessary. I mean, it's taking place at the same time, but it has nothing to do with Civil War. Like that one, that one just kind of bothered me because it's another, you got Thor Odin's son like guarding the ultimate Thor, Mjolnir, right. And then he has like the heart-to-heart with Jane Foster, like she, and then someone else arrives, and now he's the ultimate Thor. So it's just like Odin's son just can't catch a break, just can't catch a break. That one.
It's like when you're at work and you keep asking for a promotion, they keep giving it to other people.
Right, exactly. Like everyone around you, like you're like, and you put
like I've been here for 10 years. That guy's been here for 5 minutes. Come on.
And then the worst part about it is, and a lot of people have brought this up to me, and I agree with him. Can they just not all be called Thor?
Yes. Can we call him something different?
Right. Because my thing is like, you know what? I may not be worthy to carry the hammer, but my name is in fact actually Thor. Like I was.
That should count for something.
Exactly. I was in fact named Thor. I mean, you could be named something else, but like everyone now is just Thor. So I
Yes.
mean, except Beta Ray Bill.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Yes. He was like, you know what? I'm tired of this whole Thor thing. I'm going to go my own way on this one.
exactly.
It's good.
So I'm reading that one, and then I picked up and read. Well, I got it digitally.
Yeah.
Weapons of Mutant Destruction. It's interesting. It's an interesting comic. I mean, you got you got Old Man Logan, you got Sabretooth, you got Lady Deathstrike, you got Domino, you got X-Force in there going after secret cadre of anti-mutant scientists who are combining DNA of Hulk and Wolverine with a bunch of adamantium cyborgs going after him. So it's looking interesting on a concept that I didn't enjoy when I saw the initial picture of it. Yeah, so I was just like, why Hulk and Thor together? Just why?
Yeah.
But they're bringing in like Amadeus Cho, who is my least favorite character.
But the least favorite of the green skin Hulk clan.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm giving it a shot. Just because it's another story that's in the universe, but it's not touching on any of the Secret Empire stuff. So I'm fine with it.
All right, cool, man. Excellent. Anything else?
Just my DC Rebirth, everything. I'm
Rebirth,
totally,
all the things.
Exactly. I'm totally into the Rebirth. Like all things metal. Like I'm just like I can't wait. I can't wait for the casting. It's just like the Forge was so good. Like the casting is just is gonna blow me away.
It's exciting, man. It's good stuff. Yeah. I was pretty light on my comics reading this week, but I did get a cool little package in the mail this weekend when I swung by the parents' house. I still get anything packaged and valuable like sent there because I live in an apartment. I don't even know where packages go here. They go into some special little magical holding area or something, but I don't want to risk that, man. I get cool stuff in the mail.
Exactly.
So I had a little package waiting that with the name Jay Ousley on the front of the mailing address. I was like, ooh, I know who that's from. So our good friends Jim Ousley and Mr. Benjamin Sawyer sent me the Dead Palace Volume 1. We had them on the show a couple weeks ago talking about it. Nice. This is their horror anthology. I call it it's like a beautiful little appetizer tray of horrific tales, so nicely expertly crafted with delicious gore and all that good stuff that makes a good horror story. And I think Jim kept talking about it's called There's a Dead Girl on My Chest, or in my chest. I'm sorry, There's a Dead Girl on My Chest. And I think that one is my favorite story of the 5. I love it has a really gratifyingly gorific ending to the story. And,
well, that title alone definitely draws you in.
Yeah, it's good, man. And I really like how not only the tone, but the text and of course the art changes for each story to really fit the subject matter. I think it's if you're a fan of horror comics, this is definitely one to pick up. You can find them online. I mean, you can even find them on Twitter at they have the Dead Palace Twitter page, or you can look up Jim or Benjamin. So thanks guys for sending me that. They did send me the other book that they collaborated on, which is Rough and Tumble. I haven't got a chance to open it yet, but that was a nice hardcover book, and it's also an anthology. It says it's 5 comic tales of blood, sweat, and heartbreak. So
nice.
If it's anything like that one, I'm really going to enjoy it. There's some great stories in the Dead Palace. There's one that takes place in the Viking Age. There's one that takes place in a very like dystopian future with like very Minority Report kind of setting, and then there's one where a gentleman inherits a lighthouse that maybe is not the best lighthouse in the world to be working at. So I'll just leave it at that. But great
stuff. Is there
ever
really a best lighthouse to be working at? If you really think about it,
I don't know. I think as long as it does its job, I guess you don't really have to do too much. But you know,
Yeah.
who knows, man? The other thing, let's see, geeky comic related. I finally got done with all my DC CW shows from last season, so I was looking for
Mhm.
something else to watch, and I've been like, I kept hearing about it, and I've been wanting to watch it, and hadn't seen a single episode, and I finally started watching Riverdale. I don't know if you watched
Yeah.
Riverdale at all.
I haven't caught up with it. And
All
I've
right.
Archie's Archie's one of those things that's always been kind of not really, it's never really
Yeah.
spoken to me, but
Sure.
I've been hearing a lot of good stuff about Riverdale.
You know what,
So it's
Jared?
on my
It's
list.
cool, man. It's you know, our as a comic reader, to a lot of people, like Archie has always been there. You know,
Mhm.
he's always been chilling at the grocery store, the checkout counter, and you see the little Reader's Digest and all that. And it's like
Yeah.
one of those that you might have picked up when you're a kid while you're waiting for your mom to sort through her checkbook, you know, and you're like, "What's Archie?" And you start flipping through, you know. Archie's been there for a long time, man. He's
Yeah.
kind of like that comfy little good feeling, you know, that you get when you go to mom's house. You know, you just feel loved when you're reading the
Oh yeah,
Archie.
yeah, yeah. I mean, he
Yeah,
definitely speaks to the familiar.
yeah, exactly. And I think when you know, they did that really cool Afterlife with Archie run, I really got re-interested in Archie. And I really liked the way that story kind of took those familiar characters and kind of turned them upside down, if you know what I mean.
Mhm.
And the story in the show, the Riverdale, um, is really also doing that. It kind of takes that familiar story, and granted, it takes place more in modern times, but the way that it's set up, the small town feel, and kind of the character, I guess we'll say archetypes, stereotypes, whatever you want to call them, it still
Mhm.
has that kind of slightly cheesy, like 50s feel to it, but they imbibe it with some very like current issues that these kids are dealing with. I mean, there's murder, and they deal with social media slut shaming and forbidden relationships and homosexuality, and it's got a lot of like big like very current events. I mean, that they just threw into this old school, like everybody knows Archie scenario.
I mean,
So
I'll put
it's
it to you. I'll put it to you this way: the one thing that
yeah.
will keep me from watching it, just assure me that there is not an EDM remix of Sugar Sugar.
No, Darren, Darren,
Okay, I'm just saying.
hey,
If there's
Darren.
if
I'm,
there's an EDM remix of Sugar Sugar, deal breaker.
no, no. How EDM are we talking here? Is there like a level or just
I
any
don't want
kind
to
of EDM?
hear Sugar Sugar at all.
Then I'll tell you which episode and what minute to skip.
Okay, just let me know.
I'm gonna turn it off right now, Darren, and turn it back on now.
Like Jughead, I'm saying, if Jughead starts beatboxing and Archie's just like, yeah,
I haven't heard a Jughead beatbox yet, but
okay.
I will say I adore. Besides being nice to look at, I love the actress who's playing Veronica,
Yeah.
because they're doing something a little bit different with Veronica. She's not your typical ice queen, you know, uber excuse me for saying this, uber bitch that she normally is in the Archie comic books. Because you know,
Hmm.
let's face it, that's what they always make her in the Archie comics.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
like, I'm rich, I'm above you, you all suck.
Hmm.
We're dealing with a very different Veronica. She was that at one point, but there's been a shift. I won't ruin it and tell you why, because you need to watch it. But
Okay.
yeah, it's I'm enjoying it so far. I'm only on episode 5 right now, so and I just started watching it like Saturday, so I've been kind of plugging away at it, but I'm enjoying it so far. I think the casting of all the actors is really great. It's kind of on point. It still has that Archie feel to it, but in a modern setting. So you know, if you've remotely ever been a fan of Archie, I would say check it out.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, it's definitely on my
It's a good
list,
show.
and the cast is one of the reasons why. Like, you know,
Yeah,
Molly Ringwald, Luke Perry. Like, yeah,
yeah,
I definitely check in for that. Like, right now, like as far as television goes, I haven't really been like watching a whole lot. Like,
yeah,
I am totally into like right now, like I literally stopped like after putting my children to bed and having dinner. Like,
yeah,
if I'm not doing that or at work,
yeah,
like Twitch
yeah.
started a Mystery Science Theater 3000 marathon, for 6
Ooh.
days. I've just
Ooh.
been like immersed I've been on the satellite of love for for as
You gotta you watch too much that Darren, and you want to actually go to a theater and just start adding your own captions to movies.
exactly. And I think that's what I do
Can I
so
get a
I
group
can
of friends before you
avoid.
do that?
I inoculate myself
Yes.
to avoid from going to a theater and just start
Yes.
riffing on the screen.
Girl, I will start doing it. It will happen.
Yeah, exactly.
That's good, man. All right, buddy. Well, that's a good spot to wrap up tonight. Today, and so next week when we come back, we'll be a few days away from Spider-Man Homecoming, so I'm sure we'll maybe talk a little bit more about that, and I'll let you guys. We'll talk about if I had any success at the red carpet premiere. But
All right.
before we hit to those events, Darren, tell our listeners what they should be checking out weekly, daily, minutely on the interwebs.
Well, I mean, you should definitely be checking the Geeks Worldwide website, GWW, just reading news, articles, interviews, things like that. Check out superpoweredfancast.com. I do a lot of exclusive content there. I said I'm having my interview with Ming Chen from Comic Book Men this Friday. So
Beautiful.
probably try to look for that on Monday or Tuesday on the site. Other than that, just follow us, look for us. We're everywhere. Like we're yeah.
We're like Woody on Toy Story. We're everywhere. Darren, thank you, man. As always, it's good talking to you, my friend, and look forward to next week when we'll chat some more geek stuff, my friend.
Appreciate it. Next week it is.
On anytime, man. As always, listeners, you can check us out on Twitter at Capes Crew. You can find me on the Twitters at Darth Sparrow, where we're always dropping our thoughts and opinions. You may not always like them, but they're there about everything going on in the world of geek. We love your feedback and your interaction with us, so thank you for your continued support. And as always, guys, thanks for listening. We'll catch you next Monday or whenever you happen to be listening to us. But when we do catch you, we'll be catching you on that side. Everybody knows it. It's the geek side.